Hello and welcome to Entertainment of Excellence, the podcast where we talk about films, TV, all of it. Hi, I'm Ollie.
I'm Thom.
And I'm Ben.
And today we're talking about the 2023 series of Black Mirror Series 6. This will contain spoilers.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, so we're back and we all have faces in case you haven't seen us before, which you haven't.
You don't actually look like Jackie Legs.
I don't look like Jackie Legs, which is very, very sad. I mean, there's similarities there, but I'd say Thom has more in common with the Roman than I do with my guy Jackie. You know,
I do love wearing a
so
deep-sea diving helmet.
You do, yeah.
It has.
It's been a while, and before we get into anything, if there's a bit of latency between Thom and us, then don't even worry about it because Thom is joining us from Discord. Unfortunately, he's not here in person with us today, hence his awfully backlit screen. But yeah, we'd recorded some episodes and we'd done them, we'd recorded them, we hadn't released them, and we will be releasing those episodes, but we thought that it'd be best to kick back into things with this one, because we actually, we got an email from someone with a submission for our submission spotlight section. That's incredible. So that got us back into the swing of things. I know. We never got any of them. Speaking of which, if you have a submission you'd like featured on our submission spotlight section, please get in touch via the website or our social medias at ERV Podcast, which we will now be using more than once a year.
We can do that this early in the show this time because that used to be like the sole thing we'd say in the submission spotlight bit.
That's true. That's true.
We actually have one to do. So
incredible.
It's very exciting.
So what are we doing today, Thomas?
And you know what, Ben? Well, it's apt that you mentioned social media because today we're kicking off with the 2023 season of Black Mirror Series 6.
That's the phone bad show.
It is, and I thought that this was a classic ERV episode. And it turns out we've never done Black Mirror before. I just made that up. So
you just got confused with Love, Death and Robots, which is another sci-fi anthology show.
That's
you should have a listen to.
Actually, yeah. And this season of Black Mirror has 5 episodes. You can never guess how many episodes you're going to get in a season of Black Mirror nowadays. SMH. And these 5 are all very different, I would say.
They are, yeah. There's less of an overarching theme with them than there was in some of the earlier seasons.
Well, for those of you that don't know, Charlie Brooker is sort of like the creator of the show, and he writes. I think he still writes quite a lot of them, but I don't know if he directs as much as he used to. He sort of said that he was taking a break from Black Mirror because the world was depressing enough without it.
And then he decided to give us Death to 2020 and Death to 2021.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's kind of gone in a slightly different direction because he labelled some of these episodes as Red Mirror, so they're kind of more of well, we'll get into it, but not necessarily that technology-driven, kind of more of a horror spin to some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably best to go episode by episode, really.
Yeah, so let's start off with an episode that took me by surprise, which is Joan is Awful, and the story of this one is that just a normal woman lives in a very normal and not terrifyingly clean looking workplace, and she goes home, she puts on the classic streaming service Streamberry, and then on the front page is a show about her life, and then as you get in
life.
to the episode, you find out that it's AI generated, and then they're using the microphones in your devices to get the script and things, and it's all because she signed the terms and conditions of her soul away or whatever in the good old T's and C's. But then within that show, because she ends up finding the show within that show, they also have to make another show, and then it turns out that the thing that we're watching, the Joan that we're watching, is not the original Joan, and the original Joan destroys the quantum computer but Michael Cera says, no, don't destroy the quantum computer, but she does. And then she makes friends with the actor of Joan, who's not actually the actor of Joan. She's actually an AI of Joan. And it all really makes sense, actually.
Yeah. So, what would anyone have anything to say in particular about this episode?
I'm not going to do it, Ben. I'm not going to say what you want me to say.
You go for it.
I'll take the bait.
You could say it.
Joan is awful. Is awful.
Oh, shocker. You pulled it off.
Wow.
I did.
Wow.
What an original
My-
joke, just like how original the plot to this was.
Oh, yeah. Indeed. It's definitely not just exactly the same as some other generic. Oh, it's a simulation, but oh no, we're not the base of the simulation. I think I worked that out about 10 minutes into the plot. It wasn't so much a twist as the real twist was seeing Michael Cera turn
Yeah,
up.
that was the highlight. I mean, I think that's sort of when it did get more interesting when they added the more layers. And as you say, to say like how convoluted it sounds, it did kind of like all make sense in the context of the show, but I just think it was a very like derivative idea that wasn't like executed the best.
Yeah.
See, I'm hesitant to go in on this episode because I know a lot of people like it, and I can see why. I was in when I came in, I was ready for like, for some reason, every time I go in, I'm ready to watch the episode from like season 2 where they've got the eye contact lens memory things, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And this one I understand was trying to be completely like outrageous and just goofy and satirical, and it feels like the point is that it feels AI generated, because like when I started watching this episode, I remember I hated the vibe because I was like, oh, this all looks so like clean and so modern TV Black Mirror. But then obviously the point is that you find out that it is TV clean Black Mirror, and that's the point. And I always feel like me not liking this episode is me being got by the episode. And I know people that really liked this. Like this one has an equivalent, is like tied for the highest rated.
I'm really surprised.
So
by
it
that.
just feels like this one wasn't for me. I can't deny that I just did not enjoy watching this, and I actually got bored.
Yeah.
But like, you might enjoy this episode. It's fine. I hadn't bought into it, and that really doesn't help. Like, you have to buy in fast, I think, because by the time you get to a woman defecating in the middle of a wedding, it's a bit much. It's a bit much.
I think that one of its
I don't know.
few strengths is it was like a bit more light-hearted, and even though like the comedy was cringy, as you say, that was kind of like what it was going for. So if you like accept it for that, then I can see why you might enjoy it to an extent. But I just
wasn't for
no,
me.
I don't think you can say just because like it was going for that like whole like AI type of vibe, then that like inherently makes it better because like it achieved what it was going for. If that initial thing was like bad in the first place, then it's not necessarily like a good thing to like get that right. If you know what I mean?
No,
Yeah.
like it got what it was going for. I just didn't like what it was going for.
What it was going for, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I personally didn't pick up on the fact that it was meant to be, the whole episode was meant to be like AI generated sort of stuff, and the plot seemed kind of AI generated. I suppose it kind of plays into what it wanted, but it was just a bit boring and very, very predictable. And I mean, aesthetically, it's going for what it was trying to achieve. It just, I don't understand why they opened the season with this as well, which is another point.
Well, I mean,
there's so many stronger
I
episodes
think
in my view.
if it was like in the middle, I think I could have dealt with it. But it was because it was the first thing. I was like, oh my god.
It's the first episode of Black Mirror in years after like season 5, which we might talk a bit about later, but it was a bit mid to say the least. So we kind of had good hopes for this, and some of the episodes definitely played up.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm not sure whether you mentioned this when you're doing the synopsis, but there's also the reveal that like they were going to create content sort of tailored towards like, every subscriber. So I think something that definitely cropped up in the second episode as well was this kind of like self-awareness of Netflix through this like Streamberry thing, which is like so obviously a parody. You start to think like, why didn't they just use the actual branding? But I sort of, again, that like self-awareness, I guess they did what they were going for, but I just found it like really cringy. I always find it cringy when like you have these big corporations that are like making fun of themselves in a way that's not really that like destructive to the brand. It's just like a very superficial mocking of like how they act, but it's not like changing it.
Exactly, like the whole Streamberry thing was very, very clearly like Netflix parodying themselves, but it just kind of it fell a bit flat because it's just at that point, why not just use the Netflix name? It wasn't so much it was parodying itself by exaggerating its own features. It was just like in universe. That new show on Streamberry, and then the notifications on the phone and all of that. It just
comes across as a bit tasteless when you're going like, oh well, this is what we would basically do. I mean, obviously it's a bit of a parody, but like, I guess I'll bring that up a bit more when we talk about the next episode, because I think it was more relevant to like sort of how Netflix presents stuff in the current moment, whereas this was more like futuristic, I guess. But it just always feels odd when you get sort of that like self-referential stuff.
Cool. Ratings.
Well, should we leave the rating until the end?
Yeah, let's rank the episodes and then rate the series, because I cannot think of 5 ratings.
We'll do that. Right, episode 2 then.
Yeah, Loch Henry. So this is a lovely Scottish boy and his American girlfriend go to his hometown because they want to make a documentary on a man that keeps rare eggs. But while they're there,
already an interesting
they find
premise.
out about. I know, but when they're there, they find out about this serial murderer, and they go, "Oh well." The American girlfriend goes, "This is way more interesting. We should do the documentary about this," which fair enough. And then as they get into it, they find out that actually the lovely Scottish boy's parents were mainly behind the killings, using this like puppet guy, like this just mentally vulnerable man. And then the girlfriend ends up dying, and someone else makes the documentary about them trying to make this documentary of the girlfriend dying, and then it gets like a BAFTA and things. That's kind of the story I could best describe.
It was an interesting premise.
I thought this one was good.
Yeah, it was a lot better in my opinion than the first one. I liked the whole the fact that they went in trying to shoot a documentary, realize there's a bigger story to tell, and shift the perspective of the documentary, and then get caught up in events themselves and become the subjects of the Streetberry documentary. And Yeah, there's things to say about the ending, but I like the premise of the episode as a whole. I think it was done really well. The acting was
there were
all
some genuinely
top
tense, genuinely tense moments, and it did like the thriller really well. And I also thought that there's just some really good performances in this, like Davis's mate Stuart is very funny. And I thought Davis himself gave some like just really tragic performances. The actor of Pia was good. I liked her, and also the mum kind of balanced what's the tightrope between funny and terrifying.
Yeah.
As well.
I think to an extent it was slightly predictable that it was going to go in some direction where they were implicated by people they knew, and it was always like eeriness going on underneath. But I also think like the setting of it just really enhanced like the creepy feel, and it just all had like a really good like mood to it.
Yeah, the isolation of the landscape, which seems very, inviting and friendly at the start, when it turns to night, pathetic fallacy. That becomes a lot more threatening, and the fact that, when that scene when Pia's being chased by the mum, if you're listening this far, spoilers. But if she's being chased by the mum and she slips and knocks her head in a river, and I think either probably drowns, right?
Yeah.
She just like goes face down into the river, and the fact that she was trying to get some help and there was literally no one around, and that was good use of the location.
Because it's not as if like the mum ends up killing her. I don't even know if that was necessarily her intention, and it's almost as if like she just like feel a bit of guilt around her death, and that sort of motivates her to then leave the videos and the evidence out to then get caught. But then the ending, I think, is maybe where it lost me a little bit, because again it goes into that whole thing about the Netflix approach to the true crime stuff, and then you get the bit at the end where they go up and they're like, oh, we're going to be making this into like an adaptation, like can we cast you and stuff, and
shows a bit of the trailer. And
yeah, I mean, again, conceptually that's quite interesting, but it's like when that is like basically mocking Netflix, it just feels a bit weird.
Is Netflix mocking themselves so that it feels a bit tone deaf? It's more like, haha, this is what people think of us, rather than this is what we actually do. And a very, very, oh, go on.
I actually really enjoyed the ending because I think that I'm fine with the mocking Netflix, because it is just Charlie Brooker writing this. It's not like he's the CEO of Netflix. And I also felt that it paid off a lot of what was being set up earlier in the episode, because there's a lot of reluctance about going into this story because of its kind of personal ties and knowing like how it affects all these people, but they still kind of go along with it because it's more fun. And then after it bites them in the back, like Davis has to deal with the same thing being done to him and kind of getting more empathy on doing like very personal murder stories which have been done. It's very clearly, making a murderer or something like this. And because I felt when they were doing it with both of them still alive and doing the documentary, like you could see that the locals were kind of upset, but you couldn't empathize as much with them. So having Pia die and then having the documentary made and seeing the clear like guilt and mental toll it takes on Davis, I thought was really good. And I also just really enjoyed him reading the note at like what you assume is this sinister suicide note from his mum, and it just says "for your film," and it's like, oh, I don't know, that got me.
You can just imagine a character just going, "For your film."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did really like from his perspective, like that sort of like moral comfort he was going through. But I think it was just more so like from the Streamberry whole commentary on that. But I don't really see how they could have approached it differently to sort of get that reaction out of him.
A very minor note. A very minor note. Okay, they do actually reference Netflix earlier in the show. They do mention like shows on Netflix, and then it's Streamberry that picks it up, which is just another argument in there. For goodness sake, why don't you just use the name Netflix?
You know that apparently the whole like the documentary that they made, and that was featured on the thing in Joan is Awful when she goes on the.
Oh, was it? I noticed there was
Yeah.
a reference to what was it called? The
Bandersnatch.
Waldo moment.
no, I was
And
there
Waldo
was a
moment.
reference.
I saw a sticker of the bear on there.
The San something.
San Junipero.
So, yeah, there was a reference to that in the
Oh yeah,
Oh, right.
there is.
in the thing. So
Yeah.
There's loads of Easter eggs.
that's cool.
So yeah, pretty solid episode, I'd say.
Thumbs up.
But yeah, I really liked this one, and I think that it would have actually, again, I think if it had just labelled it being Netflix picking it up, it would have actually also felt more like Charlie Brooker having a go at Netflix and getting away with it, rather than
I think
rather
that's
than,
what
like,
I'm kind
Netflix
of getting at.
approved.
Yeah, the way they're doing this, but it's indirectly because they're like having this thin veil of a different name. Like it's when they literally, it's identical. Like they even have the same like intro sound. and
Yeah,
everything.
and the same
Yeah,
app
the
design and everything. Nice. Episode 3 then. Episode Trez.
Ooh, episode 3. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so in episode 3, we've got Aaron Paul, my favorite
do.
boy,
My guy.
is on a spaceship with another man, Josh Hartnett, who I remember looking at what I recognized him in before, and I instantly forgot. But they are both on a very important space mission in the 60s, but they have like android replicas on Earth, which they can kind of put their minds in, so they can swap their minds between their real bodies, which are in space on the mission, and their replicas, which are on Earth and like with their families and stuff. But tragically, Josh Hartnett's whole family and replica Link or whatever is murdered by the Manson family. It looks like
Pretty much.
It does, yeah.
and so he gets stuck in space by himself, and also his whole family are dead. So then Aaron Paul's like, "Oh, go on then, mate. You can have a go in my replica for a bit and paint my house." But then tensions
That is doing
rise
oil
between
painting of his house,
Josh-
not just like use a paint roller on the walls.
Oh,
How he's doing
yeah,
up.
yeah. And so him in Aaron Paul's body, obviously there's like some tension between them and Aaron Paul's wife that goes awry, and then tensions rise between the two characters, and they find out stuff that's going on, and then it ends with Josh Hartnett locking Aaron Paul out in space while he then goes and murders his whole family as a kind of, one for me, one for you.
I think a lot of
Which
a lot
was
of
a
my
twist.
favorite like Black Mirror episodes. Another one that's similar is USS Callister, which is the one where it's Jesse Plemons.
Another Breaking
Who-
Bad reference.
Exactly. Who like has this thing where you can, it's through like their saliva or something, right? He gets their DNA and then traps them in like this game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this one's similar. It's like they use the like technology stuff as like the basis, but it's really like an exploration of these characters and like the conflict between them. Where this episode wasn't really that. It obviously had like that component of the spaceship and the like other consciousness that they come down, but it was more so like a character study and really between like the drama of these people which I thought like is obviously enhanced by the technology, but that's really like the basis to facilitate this like really interesting story.
Yeah, I thought this was probably my favorite episode of the season. I really like the whole idea of, if the technology was available, it would make perfect sense because it would keep astronauts feeling a bit more grounded if they could spend a bit of time on Earth in the family with the family for longer missions and stuff. And then once one of the replicas gets destroyed along with his family, it's kind of the beginning of the end for his mental state, and he kind of you don't see it as like outwardly he goes insane, but it just the more clues you pick up, and you kind of see it from Aaron Paul's perspective, I suppose, throughout the episode. Like that moment when he finds all the drawings of like his wife naked, it's like, oh, did they do something? Which it turns out they didn't do anything. It's just the other guy, I've forgotten the actor's name. What was his name, Tom?
Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett was just acting a bit rapey, and
the thing is, I think Aaron Paul was quicker to jump to like the suspicions because you sort of see that they're like kind of isolated. They're not particular. There's signs that stuff is maybe a bit off. Stuff with, like the kid as well. So I think he's more paranoid to then like jump onto that there might be something going on.
Yeah, it reveals a bit about his character and his relationship as well, because it kind of highlights to him how much he like enjoys having his family and sort of owning his wife and everything rather more than he does actually spending time and interacting with them and doing like he doesn't seem to like enjoy, like support his wife's hobby of reading very much.
No, it's more like that possession of clinging onto that, and like as soon as someone enters the family unit, he's quick to like make these accusations.
And he also he makes his son call him sir and things like that.
Yeah.
He's a much more commanding presence than Josh Hartnett, who we see earlier in the episode with his family. And it's interesting because it's kind of like you can then feel Josh Hartnett's jealousy of Aaron Paul not truly treasuring his family. Obviously, he goes to extreme lengths to
prove that,
try and teach him a lesson. But one of the interesting things about this episode is I want to address two major complaints.
Ooh,
one is such a classic internet complaint of why didn't they leave the real people on Earth and put the robot people in space? Look,
classic
we
internet
never find out what the mission
I hear
is.
that about every single thing.
Maybe there's a point where they would lose contact and they would have to stay on the spaceship for a bit while they do the really important part of the mission. We don't know. It's fine.
Yeah,
you can
can't
accept
really be questioning
that they're able to do
things.
this.
Yeah, I know.
It's just look, I can understand maybe why it would annoy you, but it's such an easy explanation. It's not like it violates some core part of the episode. There is just some reason.
You just have to like accept that one thing blindly, and then the rest of the episode is good.
If you think about it, technology-wise, the further they get away from Earth, the more latency there's probably going to be with the connection. It's just suspend your disbelief a little bit.
This was set in 1960, and they had this
the whole, it's not meant to be realistic. No. It's a story.
But it's also
internet people.
The main thing is, obviously a lot of people say that about plot holes, but I also just think it's a plot hole that's it's not like the Batman one, the Dark Knight Rises one, where they destroy all the bridges and then he just gets in fine somehow, because that's kind of established. You can't get in. but then he just does. Like, okay, I understand that. But this,
Yeah.
it just feels like it's more that something is a reason that they didn't need to. Like, if there was a point in the episode where they're like, oh, and we can't have your real bodies on Earth because of this, it would just be a bit weird. And also, that brings me to my second complaint, which is that this episode is too long. So, come on, you'd have to add another scene. But also, I think that it's fine being this long because it's kind of supposed to show this slow, almost contemplative. It goes all the way through it has to have those quiet moments where he's just walking through the forest and like appreciating all the things about life that he can't have on the spaceship. And it also shows this slow building of conflicts between the characters and the deterioration of mental states. Like, I didn't feel that this one felt too long when I was watching it.
No, it definitely is like a slow burn, but that's kind of like what it's going for. And I think if anything, the ending like hits you quite suddenly because it's set up as if like he's going to be stranded outside, and then you get that like twist, and then it sort of like ends like that. So I think it really is like that huge crescendo, and you do like I feel like the length was necessary to like really highlight this conflict.
The more sort of slowly it builds up and shows how the conflict is kind of ramping up ever so slightly, like every time he visited, and like, you know, he thinks like, you know, Aaron Paul's not appreciating his family a little bit more and a little bit more, and then he gets told he can't go back in there, and then he decides to kill the family.
I think Aaron Paul's performance in this was really, really good because he sort of had to like embody those two different people through him. So it was really well done. It really
genuinely,
you could tell that he was doing like a really good version of the other characters' mannerisms and his style of talking, and it was just really obvious watching him who was in control of the body, which is not an easy thing to do at all.
Yeah. No, I thought it was an insanely good performance from him because it's been a shame that we've not managed to really see, well, I've not at least seen anything too like exciting for him since Breaking Bad, or, you know, I mean, I guess he went back with El Camino, but I've not heard at least of these kind of challenging roles for him, which, you know, he's a great actor. And that's not to overshadow, like, the other two major performances are really good. Like, Aaron Paul's wife, Kate Mara, she like really shows the kind of deep sadness she feels when she sees Josh Hartnett in Aaron Paul's body, and also the confusion around like what's she actually in love with, what's going on, and also Josh Hartnett just looks completely mentally destroyed every time I see him in this episode. So I think that all the performances are really good. It's just that Aaron Paul's was like an obvious standout in terms of what he'd been given to do.
Yeah.
He's our fave. Right, next episode.
But
interesting.
Yeah. Mazey Day. This one. There's struggling paparazzi played by Zazie Beetz, who I absolutely love. She's great. Put her in more stuff. There's some great actor gems in this series, I felt like. When I saw she was helming an episode, I was like, yes, love her in Atlanta. And so this one is like about paparazzis. There's some struggling paparazzi, you know, she needs to get her money because of her rent and things like that. And then you find out, like, at the start of the episode, what you think is that this big Hollywood actor called Mazey Day, she gets into a hit and run because she was drunk and on mushrooms, and she hits this man and then goes into hiding. But if the paparazzi get a photo of her, they'll get a lot of money, like $30,000, which would help Zazie Beetz a lot. So they go after her, but unfortunately they find out that actually she's a werewolf. Oh, I hate it when that happens. And so they run off, and then the werewolf kills loads of people, and then Zazie Beetz kills the werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's something confusing about that or like surprising.
Oh, it was so
I don't know.
obvious, that twist.
pretty run-of-the-mill.
Everyone saw it coming.
Just hang on a sec.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I guess this had a few like interesting ideas in terms of like, I think this season tackled stuff that like wasn't strictly tech based, but was sort of stuff that like related in some way. So like the whole idea of like documenting true crime stuff, which isn't like necessarily based around modern day technology, but it's like it relates. And then this similar sort of thing about like paparazzis and like perceptions of celebrities and things like this, which and you sort of see that through the main character. She's like a bit like conflicted about what's the best option, and ultimately decides to like take it. But then like in those final scenes when you see like those two like staying to capture the perfect shots and that, I think that kind of stuff was quite interesting, but it all just got a bit strange, and I don't know, it's just there's something felt off about this episode.
I think it's weirdly, after I've sat on it, it's kind of grown on me, because it's almost like it was kind of showing what Charlie Brooker wanted to do, where obviously it was going with this paparazzi of damaged people is bad, and then it's like, nah, this is werewolf now. And all the werewolf stuff was quite thrilling. And I to be honest, like, ever since I've sat on it, I'm like, I did actually kind of like all the werewolf stuff. and I enjoyed
came
the
from
paparazzi
out of
things as well.
absolutely
It
nowhere.
built this strange tension. I know, but I remember thinking, I was like, there are some bits of this hit and run business that don't add up. When they were like, oh yeah, we found a dead man on the thing, and then she's like, man? When she said that, I was like, I mean, she didn't, I swear she hadn't thought she'd hit a deer or something. And also, her kind of using this big hippie doctor man, but and the room being absolutely destroyed. I was like, there's some bits here, I can see how this was kind of foreshadowed. And I just think that, like, it's possible. I just think that Zazie Beetz is so good. She really sells this episode for me. And also because she was in it, I was kind of up for weirdness, because I'm so used to Atlanta, which is completely bizarre now, that I was just like, yeah, I guess there is just something weird like this happening to her. Just a normal day. It's not. I've got to say, it's near the bottom for me of this season, and I think there were actually points of like really slow paparazzi work that were a tad boring, and like, I know the characters were supposed to be annoying, but there were some annoying people. But I didn't hate it. I don't think that it's the worst ever episode of Black Mirror.
No,
That's
definitely
what I'll
not.
say.
Yeah, I don't understand how it got that low. I mean, I honestly quite enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't like the whole werewolf coming out of nowhere, and as you say, I do kind of like appreciate the whole werewolf things. Like it's not like a cringe like bad CGI just out of nowhere thing, but it felt a bit ham-fisted in, but equally I don't think that necessarily brought the whole episode down for me, because of the whole atmosphere and questions it raised in the first 2/3. I did kind of really like the commentary it was going on about how far people go to get these sorts of paparazzi images, and the impact it has on the subjects. Because if you remember, there's the bit at the start where was some TV presenter who was having an affair with a man, and he ended up committing suicide, which got the protagonist out of the business for a bit. But as soon as she needed the money, it was straight back in, and it's like, was she ever really out of it?
I almost feel like if this was in a different show, like a different kind of anthology thing, that ending wouldn't have felt so jarring. But it did feel like a massive like tonal shift from a lot of the stuff that's come prior. And although like you can sort of connect that foreshadowing stuff in retrospect, I just think it was like so sudden, and it just didn't really seem to fit in. But I see what you mean when you sort of like sit and reflect on it more. It has kind of like, I've grown to appreciate it a bit more than initially, because again, I did like some of the things they were going for, but it just like all sort of came together in a bit of a messy fashion.
When I was watching it at the werewolf point, when she like looked up worried at the full moon, I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then she started turning into it. I was like, huh? And I will say that there was a fair chunk of the episode from that point where I was like, no, you can't do that.
I kind of thought the whole like being chained to a bed thing was just some weird hippie, like really extreme rehab thing, and
same.
And then she just started changing. You know, it just kind of came out of left field. It was just what werewolf.
I was sat there. I was genuinely sat in my room,
just going no.
I feel like this.
I was sat in my room out loud saying like no, no, you know.
If this had been like a season 3 episode or something, they'd probably like try to explain it through some sort of weird like simulation or. But the fact that they just like fully committed to it, it just you had to like suspend disbelief entirely.
Cool. And
to be fair,
final episode,
I think. Wait. I just want to mention the final shot in many ways. Am I right, guys? That went hard, where she tosses her the gun to put herself out of her misery, and then she takes a photo, and there's like a flash as the gunshot goes off. That goes hard.
It did go hard.
I appreciate that. But yes, the final episode, which I feel like I might have a hot take on this one, but Demon 79. Demon 79 is a British Indian woman in 1979. She's got a bit of a miserable job. The Tories are on the rise, as well as the National Front, which are this like far right group in Britain. So it's all looking a bit miserable. She goes into the basement to have a biryani because the manager's like, sorry, you can't be eating that food in our storage room.
It has to be normal
the
foods.
Classics. It has to be normal. Just eat normal food.
Either a ham or a cheese sandwich, nothing else.
Unless you're one of those who don't eat ham.
Don't do
Just
ham.
like,
I was like, oh my god.
Like, come on, you're giving us Yorkshire people a bad rap. Or was it set Tiddly or something?
It was fair. It was fair enough though for the for
the 70s.
And not that song.
I mean, maybe.
Oh,
it is
obscure reference.
Smashing Pumpkins. Then. It's not that
well, I know it's not that obscure, but just because we've played a cover of it.
I was actually referencing our cover.
The mood organ version.
Yeah,
which is obscure.
All right, come on, let's stop self-promoting and get on to Sweden's hot take.
Oh, I can't wait.
Goes into the basement.
Skip the plot, I want the hot take.
I really liked this episode.
I really like this episode.
It just seems to be a hot take because people don't like it. I don't know why. I thought it was really good.
I wasn't. I did like it, but as you were saying with episode 3, I did feel like this one dragged quite a bit. I did feel like it overlong in some parts. and I just feel like quite a bit of it could have been cut without losing that much.
I think you're right.
I did watch it in
But
two
also-
sections, so
Yeah, but also I do think it's one of those where you're thinking of like a lot of the bits like towards the start where it's basically like 20 minutes of living a normal life before the demon even gets introduced, something like that.
Yeah,
I think that kind of helps establish her character and what she's going through, this sort of like monotony of like daily life where she's not like outwardly being discriminated against, but she's is being discriminated against, and she's like having a really like crap time. And I think it kind of sets her up for spoilers at the end when the demon is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to eternal nothingness now because I failed in my task. Do you want to come with?" And she's just like, "Yeah."
yeah.
I liked all the
But I just
sort of
thought like
political stuff that's going on, and
Yeah.
as you say, a lot of the racial undertones that very much like reflected that like pre-Thatcher England, and sort of like, especially when they when she looks into that politician's future and she sees like sort of that descent into far right politics and stuff that I think it was very like important to the story, but it was done in quite like a clever way that wasn't like so overt that it necessarily you felt a motivation, but a lot of the time it was sort of done through these interesting scenes where like the demon figure would show her like the future of these people or like the past, so it would almost like for this like normal person that's had this strange thing sprung upon them, it's like more rationalizes these extreme acts she has to commit.
It was a nice exploration of sort of morality and what who deserves to, if you have to kill 3 people to stop the apocalypse, which 3 people are you going to kill? Is it going to be people who deserve it, and if so, what is it? What actions do deserve it? And by looking into these people's futures, that kind of helps play into that a little bit, because I don't think we are ever told like killing this person was right or killing this person was wrong. It was just what fit the arbitrary rules that the demon people decided.
Yeah, and as she sort of gets more entangled in it, it's like it's easier for her to.
She sort of works out
to herself.
Yeah, she works out her own like morals, and like she's adamant about killing the politician guy because he's just going to cause so much like suffering, and he's not going to actively kill people, but his actions are going to probably kill people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's by doing that she thinks it's going to be a force for good, rather than just killing some innocent person.
But they introduced that thing where it's like if you can't, it wouldn't be accepted if you killed like a murderer or something, would it? It has to be that it's more of like an indirect way that she sort of has to latch onto and like make it seem to herself that this is the right thing to do.
Cool.
And also, aside from all that, I just thought that the chemistry between the main two was so good. Like
You do be the man from Boney M.
Nida is just the man from Boney M is so charismatic and just really entertaining to watch, and Nida is like really tragic, and you can kind of feel her plight and this inherent rage, and also all of the like little cheesy 70s like drastic like the zooming in shots with the music playing, I thought were all really fun.
Walking out the store in the red jacket.
I really enjoyed
that went
this
hard.
episode. I thought it did.
I think it was really successful in that, even though like on the face of it, it was very dark, like especially that ending, like the sort of end of the world thing. It managed to be like so comedic and fun to watch. So even where I felt like it dragged in certain points, I think that they like got that the tone of it spot on.
It was a dark comedy, but it did have enough sincere moments for you to feel for the characters and, sympathise with Nida.
And I think they really did a good job in like capturing the sort of feel of the time, and also the way that like certain things
subtle bits of racism.
Yeah, but like also the sort of the style of the episode itself, with like the title card at the start and stuff. It definitely felt like they'd done their research.
Very authentically 70s.
Yeah.
And I thought, the progression of the subtle to overt racism was also very accurate for within Britain at the time. And also Sean Dooley is in this episode, and he's great. I love Sean Dooley. He's another OMG. I love that actor in this season. So
yeah, I think one thing we can say for this season overall is like the acting was amazing. Like,
it was, yeah.
They picked, I think, was probably the best I can remember for Black Mirror series.
I think there were a lot more standout performances in the season overall. Like, though, I can think back to previous Black Mirror seasons, and I can think of the odd episodes like the Jesse Plemons one, and odd episodes where it's like, the acting in that was brilliant. But I think overall for this season, just for the 5 episodes, it was a lot better than season 5.
Speaking of which, we try and give them a ranking.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, it's what the people want, isn't it? It's what everyone on the internet
hotly
wants.
anticipated.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Ben?
I don't mind ranking. I've got one ready, but Ben can also go
ahead.
first.
All right, you go first, Tom. I'll come after you.
Okay. Let's go. Number 1, Beyond the Sea.
Is that top?
That's
number 1.
Yes, that's top.
Okay.
So I guess I've given away the best already.
Go bottom up.
Come on.
Honestly, AKV fan.
Go bottom up. Okay,
we coined that.
I'll do it now. Let's pretend we don't know what number 1 is. Okay.
Oh, what could it be?
What is number 1? Stay tuned to find out after this advertisement break.
It's very tense. But number 5, Joan is awful. Number 4, Mazey Day. Number 3, I'll go Demon 79. Number 2, Loch Henry. And number 1, Beyond the Sea. Who would have guessed?
See, mine is very similar to that, but not exactly the same. So I'm going to go...
with number 3 and then work.
No, piss off. Right, starting at the bottom, we're going to go with... I've already forgotten the names.
Try to get them up on there.
Yeah,
that's why you got the list open.
I should have done. I wasn't very prepared.
Just increase this build up. There we go.
Okay, number 5. Joan is awful because it is awful.
What's the main character of that one called?
Awful. Number 4, Mazey Day. Because, I kind of enjoyed it, but a werewolf thing did, kind of make it a bit more not very consistent. Then I'm going to go Loch Henry, and then Demon 79, and then, obviously, number 1's Beyond the Sea, because that's good.
Damn.
It gets a thumbs up, and it also gets a second thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
Oh my god, the legendary Ben 2 thumbs up. That never happens.
I think this next
thumbnail material.
This next announcement might get 3 thumbs up, because my list is actually identical to Mr. Benjamin's.
Oh yes.
So 1, 2,
wow.
4.
That's as iconic as the Paul Hollywood handshake,
It is.
Also, I'd say.
We don't give them out to anyone. We give them out to Beyond the Sea.
To Black Mirror, season 6. Black Mirror, season 6. What did I say?
Who knows? So ratings.
Okay, well, we've...
Can you pull up the previous things, please, Ben? It's been a while.
I'm not doing that. I'm just going to go straight for one.
Oh, I mean,
If
the,
that's
the
okay.
difficulty
I can't
with
be
always like rating an anthology type show is obviously that you have like massive inconsistencies in the quality. So that's why it's sort of difficult, especially because we're only rating this season in like isolation. But I would say, on the whole, I enjoyed it a lot more than season 5, and probably from memory, I think season 4
Same.
was a bit all over the place. Like, it had some high points, but also like a lot of sort of mediocre episodes. So I'd definitely say it was like a good return to form.
Yeah, every season of Black Mirror has had high highs and low lows, but I think over the course of like sort of seasons 2 to 5, the sort of variation got a bit more and more until season 5. It was just kind of all over the place. None of it was very memorable, and this again, you know, it has some not as strong episodes, at least in my opinion, but I say overall I still enjoyed it. And given we're just going to do a rating for this one season, because you can't sum up a whole anthology show in one rating. That would be a bit ridiculous. So for just this one season, I am gonna go 7.
We're just doing like. Oh no! I just want to do whole numbers.
No.
Well, you can, but
Well, you can if you want.
He's
but
a special guest.
Obscure, beautiful 1 decimal place numbers.
I've been listening to the Weekly Planet a lot, and I'm really appreciating their either best movie ever or worst movie ever rating.
Would you say this is the worst movie ever?
No, this is best movie ever. I'm gonna go with 8 out of 10.
Oh. If you round mine up, I am also that.
I'm gonna go with slap bang in the middle at 7.9.
7.84291884. Cool. Right. Well,
we should
have
do
that
ridiculously
updated.
long decimal places.
Yeah.
You, Mr. 8.
Nice.
What are you gonna do? No decimal place. No significant figures.
Just to do either a 0 or a 10 next
I'll do
time.
to the nearest 10.
Exactly.
Do it. Well, so yeah, now we're back, and we'll be doing episodes a bit more regularly, hopefully. I mean, no concrete promises at this point, but we'll hopefully be doing things a bit more regularly. So with that, we'll be updating the website, and the website, as if any of you have been EOV listeners before, you'll know that we have a Hall of Fame section, which is like the best and worst movies for different genres and stuff. And there is this whole list of everything we've rated on there. So you can see like the decimal points with like try to look between. It's like, oh, look at this. Falling Down is averaging a 7.6, but you were never really here as averaging a 7.7. Crazy. But it's probably worth it. We put stuff like timestamps in there and just little bits and bobs if you want to give it a check out. And we'll also be posting a bit more on our Instagram and, well, not our Twitter, because honestly, Twitter is was a cesspool to begin with, and now with Lord and Savior Mr. Musk.
We could come along and save it.
Oh, okay. Well, EOV podcasts single-handedly saving Twitter. Let's go. But yeah, and speaking of which, we've had a submission for our submission spotlight this week, which, as you know, if you've listened to previous episodes, has often gone empty. And we got an Instagram DM from a director from Vermont called Liam, who's wanted us to have a look at it's feature length. It's not a short film or a medium length film. It's feature length. Film. It's called The Butterfly Queen. It's a queer fantasy film that follows like the theme of friendship, and the press release, which is in front of me right now, it says The Butterfly Queen follows Casey, a non-binary sheep farmer / cartoonist, which is a brilliant job right there. And Robin, a longtime vagabond and possibly Casey's best friend. Lost in a magical forest, the two must track down Casey's childhood sketchbook, or else they'll never get back home. Unfortunately, the Butterfly Queen wants this sketchbook too, and A, she's clever, B, she's desperate, and C, she makes the rules. So, we had a watch. What did you guys think?
I was surprised by this one. Obviously indie director, there's a lot of limitations, but there's a real spark in this. Like, it's shot and lit like really well. There's some amazing looking shots and like lovely costumes. Like the Butterfly Queen themselves looks absolutely fabulous, and there's some really cool sets like this big like graffitied wagon that they're in often, and like interesting magic stuff with portals, and like this clear heart of friendship, which I thought was, I enjoyed it more than I expected.
Yeah, I often get slightly nervous when I hear about like sort of a lower budget kind of indie film that tries to tackle these sort of higher concept things with like like fantasy elements and that. But I think this like handled it really, really well. I think it was like shot very impressively, and all like the otherworldly kind of stuff that was going on, I think really helped to like enhance the plot, which had like a very, very like good core to it. And I also think like, as you were saying, the way they like use certain effects and costumes and stuff like that was really cool and very professionally done, I thought.
Yeah, there's a tendency with a lot of like low budget films to be sort of overly ambitious and come across a bit, like you'll go all out in the special effects, and they don't look very good. This used its budget brilliantly. There's some amazing shots in there. There's some like we were all talking about like the underwater scenes. That was really well done, and the whole idea of the other world. It looked outwardly the same as the real world, but obviously there's all of these little fantasy elements in. There's the Butterfly Queen. There's these characters we meet along the way, like the British guy with the art piece. It was lovely, and the whole film really is focusing on the friendship dynamic between Casey and Robin, who'd had a falling out at the start of the film, and 5 years later they meet back up again, when Casey's sheep farm is being taken away by the taxman. And I just really like the whole it's kind of just wholesome friendship vibes,
Yeah, and I know that it mentioned some of it was like semi-autobiographical, and I think that like really shows, and you do really feel like the heart of these characters. And I also really like the way that a lot of the more like fantastical elements of it revealed themselves throughout. So it's a really good like show don't tell things that like explain like the water and how that like sort of all the stuff to do with memories. I think that like the slow reveal of that kind of stuff was really, really effective.
That was very clever, and because we got it, we were like, oh, sick. And I'll also just always enjoy stories by artists about how much they like making art. There's something very charming about that to me, which this clearly had, with the sketches, and also just importance of like the meaning that these different pieces of art can have. And yeah, this cinematography is great. Like I remember there's a scene where they go into this other world where the camera kind of goes into the ground and then it keeps turning. And I remember we were all like,
comes up the other side. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that,
and the world itself is very unique in that it's like very obviously in this little area in New England where it's got these like big roaming wildernesses, but also feels very local and homely and has this vibe of kind of being jumbled together by a lot of imagination, like because that is a big part of it. So you can see how it's come about with all these strange little characters and like ramshackled places, like this big tower of like steel and wooden shacks stacked on top of each other is a big focal point, and the guy like traveling with the truck whose truck is fueled by art. There's loads of cool stuff like that. The main thing that like drew me out is because this is so creative and so cool, is that like with all the cool shots, there were unfortunately like in some of the conversation scenes it felt a bit standard in the kind of shot reverse shot stuff, because there's so many really cool things done here. So that was a shame, but I did really enjoy the story, and I really grew to understand like the characters and their motivations, and the costuming really aided the characters. Like everything really complemented each other, so that, it was a great team.
Yeah, I think the thing you were saying about like the nitpicks about the cinematography at times, it only really like stands out more because the rest of it is so impressive. So
I'd say it was mainly at the start when, in the real world, where it kind of made it feel a little bit disjointed. But as soon as they went into that other alternative worlds, I think I think most of those nitpicks just went away because there was a lot of just really creative shots and
and as you were saying about like the whole like the art thing and like literally like using the art to like power stuff, it really just like that passion behind what they're creating really just shine through, and it's quite inspiring, really. Something that like is so like inventive and creative, can be like done on a relatively low budget, like sort of like indie type
and it's
film.
a big thing that Liam wanted to bring through, apparently, and it definitely shows this like idea of if you get a bunch of people together, you don't need the best budget in the world, you just need the best people in the world, isn't that right? And I don't mean by best, I don't mean like you need to hire Martin Scorsese, just get a bunch of
you don't need the most technically talented people, you just need people that believe in the same vision as you and can help. And I think from reading the press release and everything, I kind of, and also just reading the credits from the film itself, it felt like it was a real community effort. Like it was talking about the catering was provided by a local business, and some of the like rehearsal spaces were like from locally around the Vermont area, and it just felt like a very supportive community, all adding a little bit to this film. And so I mean with the editing, Liam, if you're watching this, we're saying that as constructive criticism. We all really enjoyed the movie, and we're very thankful for you sending it to us. We really appreciated it, and we all had a good time watching it. It was very nice to have a submission back in our submission spotlight section. So we'll be leaving a link to the Walrus Dice website, which is the production company, and it has a link to sign up to a watch party on August the 12th. So if you're interested in watching this film, we'd highly recommend you do so. Support indie directors and sort of homegrown films rather than always these big mass-produced films. And there was also something about it premiering in the UK, wasn't there, Thom?
Yes, if you check their Instagram at ButterflyQFilm, for viewers in the UK, you can watch it for the So Home Horror Pride Festival, which is from the 29th of June to the 2nd of July. So you can find tickets if you go on their Instagram at Butterfly Q Film. You'll find loads of information to support some cool indie film stuff, which you may not always get to do. So do check out the Butterfly Queen. Do it. Peeps,
Nice.
do it.
Well, do you think we should do recommendations?
Do rapid fire if you want.
Rapid fire recommendations. I'd have to think
just
about
do
that.
really
I'm going
quick.
last.
Do you want to go,
Okay.
Tom?
Right, that brings us to our recommendations section. What I'll say is Auntie Donna's like weird little YouTube channel Grouse House have a series on called The Most Upsetting Guessing Game in the World, and they deliver on providing the most upsetting guessing game in the world, and it's very funny and it's great. Also, I just found out that season 2 of The Bear has come out, and I really want to watch that because I really liked season 1.
Nice. Yeah, speaking of Auntie Donna, the Coffee Cafe that was released a few weeks ago, I think that's good. I mean, I'm sure everyone will have heard of all the praise around Spider-Verse, but if you want to see something in the cinema, then maybe, I mean, it's not for everyone, but Beau is Afraid is interesting, to say the least. It's very long and very weird, but yeah, if you're into sort of Ari Aster's previous stuff, you might like it. You might not, but it's worth a try.
And I've got 2 very rapid fire. So the first one is Legion. I have watched all 3 seasons of that, and it is good. It's a nice take on the superhero genre that isn't quite the same as the oversaturated MCU shows at the moment. It's got great cinematography, good characters, great acting. Yep, there's 3 seasons available, and the story's ended, so you can just like binge all of it if you want. And the other one I've got is a bit of out of left field one. Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, absolute banger of a movie. It is set pretty much straight after Cinderella 1, so if you want to watch Cinderella 2, have that after 3 because it chronologically makes more sense. You'll see why once you've watched it in that order. Yeah, it was a straight to VHS Disney sequel that has some sort of like alternate universe, alternate timeline, multiverse take on it. Which is quite interesting actually, and because it's straight to VHS, there was less emphasis on trying to make a commercially successful plot. So some of it feels like a sort of parody of the first one, which is quite enjoyable. So yeah, Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, do it.
Nice.
Very nice.
How do we wrap up the show again?
And with that,
That's a great question.
thank you for viewing or listening to Entertainment of Excellence. We will be back, I don't know, either next week or in the next 2 weeks or at some point in the future with another episode.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
Right, see
Follow us
you.
on
See ya.
Instagram.
Oh yeah, follow us on Instagram.
All right, see
Right, see
ya.
ya.
all right, see you.
Presented by Ollie Loch, Thom Sweeney, and Ben Stinson. Music by Thom Sweeney and Ben Stinson. Audio engineered by Ben Stinson at Longwater Productions. All Right See Ya, created by Al Wright, Sr. All rights, brackets, see ya, close brackets, reserved.